The Discovery, the Outer Reach trading station, hung in the darkness between star systems like a glowing jewel suspended on invisible threads. Ships of every design imaginable crowded around its docking ports. Some were sleek vessels from the core worlds. Others were battered freighters held together with welding scars and determination. Captain Elena Voss guided her cargo ship, the Wanderer, through the controlled chaos with practiced ease. Her hands moved across the controls, while her eyes tracked a dozen other vessels making their approach. The Wanderer was nothing special. A human-built freighter designed for long-haul transport between Earth colonies and alien markets. Its hull bore the marks of 100 close calls, meteor damage, and cheap repairs. But it was hers, paid for with 15 years of careful trading and occasional smuggling when regulations got too restrictive. Outer Reach Control. This is Cargo Vessel Wanderer, requesting docking clearance, Elena said into her comm unit. Her voice carried the flat accent of someone who had grown up on ships rather than planets. The response came from a Talvirian controller, its translated voice clicking and hissing slightly. Wanderer, you are cleared for Port 7. Welcome back, Captain Voss. The usual cargo? Spices, coffee, and some entertainment media. Earth goods are selling well this cycle. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Coffee had become surprisingly popular among certain alien species. Something about the chemical compounds appealed to their biology in unexpected ways. She brought the Wanderer in smoothly, feeling the clunk as docking clamps engaged. The station's artificial gravity took hold as she shut down the ship's systems. Her crew, all 3 of them, were already preparing to unload. They worked well together, despite being the smallest operation in the sector. Marcus Chun, her first mate, appeared in the cockpit doorway. He was young for a spacer, barely 30, but he had good instincts. Station seems crowded today. Lots of military traffic. Elena frowned. Military? Out here? The Outer Reach was neutral territory, far from any government's direct control. That was what made it valuable. What flags? Mixed. Talvirian patrol ships, some Zephon frigates, even a Karathi battlecruiser. Something has them nervous. Before Elena could respond, the station's alert system began wailing. Red lights flashed throughout the docking bay. Her hands moved instantly to restart the Wanderer systems, but she already knew they wouldn't have time. All ships, this is Station Command. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Multiple hostile vessels inbound. All military vessels respond immediately. Elena's screens lit up with tactical data. 12 ships had dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge and were burning hard toward the station. The sensor signature was unmistakable. Krell Syndicate raiders. Pirates who had been terrorizing the outer sectors for decades. Get us undocked now, Elena ordered. But even as Marcus ran for the cargo bay controls, she saw the station's defense platforms opening fire. Energy beams lanced through space toward the incoming raiders. Some hit, shields flaring bright before failing. But the Krell kept coming. The military ships Elena had noticed earlier were launching, forming a defensive screen around the station. She watched the Talvirian patrol vessels move into formation, their tactics practiced and professional. The Zephon frigates spread out to cover multiple approach vectors. Even the massive Karathi cruiser was turning to present its heavy weapons dot. It should have been enough. 12 pirate vessels against a defended station and multiple warships should have been a quick battle. But as Elena watched her tactical display, something became clear. The military ships were holding back. They positioned themselves to defend, but showed no real aggression. They're not going to fight, Marcus said, disbelief thick in his voice. They're just going to let the Krell attack. Elena understood immediately. The Outer Reach was neutral territory. If the military vessels engaged fully, and damaged the station in the crossfire, there would be political consequences. Treaties would be violated. Trade agreements would collapse. So they did the minimum required, made the appropriate gestures, and prepared to withdraw if things got bad. The Krell knew this. They had counted on it. Their ships ignored the military vessels and focused on the station itself. Missiles streaked toward civilian docking bays. Energy weapons targeted life support systems. They weren't here to fight the military. They were here to terrorize civilians and steal cargo. The first missile hit docking port 3. The explosion tore through the structure, venting atmosphere and debris into space. Alina's screens showed dozens of life signs winking out. People who had been loading cargo or waiting for transport. Gone in an instant. "Captain, we need to leave," Marcus said urgently. "If we undock now, we can get clear before they target this section." He was right. The smart play was to run. The Wanderer was just a cargo ship with minimal weapons. They had no armor, no military-grade shields, nothing that could stand up to a Krell raider. Staying would be suicide. Alina looked at her screens again. The military vessels were pulling back to defensive positions further from the station, making it clear they would not escalate, protecting themselves while civilians died. Port 12 exploded. Port 5 lost pressure. The station was coming apart, and thousands of people had nowhere to run. "Bring weapons online," Elena said quietly. "Captain, we have 2-point defense cannons and 1 missile launcher. Against Krell raiders, we're outgunned by a factor of 10. I know the odds, Marcus. Bring weapons online." Elena's hands moved across her controls. The Wanderer lurched free of its docking clamps and moved into open space. Her tactical computer highlighted the nearest Krell raider, a converted freighter bristling with stolen military weapons. It was firing on Port 9, where a civilian transport was trying desperately to undock. The Wanderer's missiles locked on. Elena fired without hesitation. The projectiles streaked across space and impacted the raider's engines. Not enough to destroy it, but enough to make it stop firing on the transport. Enough to make it turn its attention to her. "Here they come," Marcus warned unnecessarily. Elena was already moving, throwing the Wanderer into a tight spin that no cargo vessel should have been able to perform. She had modified the maneuvering thrusters years ago, adding redundant systems that gave her more control. Those modifications saved their lives as Krell weapons fire tore through space where they had been moments before. Elena fought like she had learned in the outer colonies, where resources were scarce and every fight was desperate. She used the debris from damaged sections as cover. She timed her burns to be unpredictable. She made the raider work for every shot, wasting their ammunition, forcing them to expose themselves to the station's defense platforms. 2 more cargo ships joined her. Their captains had made the same choice, to fight rather than flee. Together they harried the Krell raiders, not winning but buying time. Time for civilians to evacuate. Time for someone to help. That was when Elena's sensors registered something new. A massive object was drifting into the combat zone from the system's outer reaches. At first, she thought it was an asteroid, but the shape was wrong. Too regular. Too geometric. "Captain, what is that?" Marcus had seen it too. Elena expanded the sensor view. The object was huge, easily 3 times the size of the Karathi battlecruiser. Its hull was dark, showing no lights, no energy signature. Dead in space. But as it drifted closer, Elena could make out details. Gun ports. Armor plating. Sensor arrays. It was a warship. Derelict and dark, but unmistakably a warship. And its design was human. "That's impossible," Elena breathed. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 80 years ago. They had been building ships for barely a century. Nothing that old could still be intact. Nothing that size could have been built without the galaxy knowing about it, but the evidence floated before her eyes. A human warship, ancient and abandoned, drifting into a battle zone like a ghost from history. A Krell raider noticed it too. Perhaps thinking it was just debris to use for cover, the pirate ship moved close to the derelict. That was when lights flickered along the ancient hull. Dim at first, then growing stronger. Systems were coming online. Systems that had been dormant for decades or longer. Asterisk Ilana made a decision born from desperation. She angled the Wanderer toward the derelict, accelerating hard. Marcus shouted something about radiation and structural integrity, but she ignored him. If that ship had even minimal life support, even basic systems, it might have weapons. It might have something she could use. The docking port was designed for military craft, much larger than the Wanderer's civilian airlock. But Elena found a maintenance hatch and brought her ship alongside. The magnetic clamps engaged with a solid thunk. "I'm going over there," she announced. "Marcus, you have the bridge. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, undock and run." "Captain, you can't. That's an order." Elena grabbed an emergency pressure suit and cycled through the airlock. The maintenance hatch on the derelict was sealed but not locked. Ancient mechanisms groaned as she forced it open manually. The interior was dark, lit only by her suit lights. The corridors were huge, built for a crew of hundreds. Dust floated in zero gravity, disturbed for the first time in who knew how many years. Elena pulled herself along, following signs in English, searching for the bridge or engineering. Unaware with active systems, she found the bridge. The doors opened with surprising ease, as if the ship had been waiting. Inside, command stations sat empty. Screens were dark, but in the center, a holographic display flickered to life as she entered. A figure formed in the light. Human-shaped, wearing what looked like a military uniform from Earth's early space program. The hologram stabilized and spoke. Identification required. Elena's voice caught in her throat. "Captain Elena Voss, Merchant Vessel Wanderer." Human biosignature confirmed. "Welcome aboard the UHS Defiance. I am this vessel's artificial intelligence. I have been waiting a very long time for someone to find us." The AI's words hung in the air. Elena's mind raced with 1,000 questions, but outside the battle was still raging. Can this ship fight? Unknown. Multiple systems are damaged. However, I can bring weapons online at approximately 40% capacity. Do you wish to engage hostile vessels? Yes, target the Krell raiders. Prioritize threats to civilian craft. Acknowledged. Initiating combat protocols. The Defiance came alive around her. The hum of power flowing through ancient conduits. The vibration of weapon systems charging. Through the bridge windows, Elena saw the ship's guns rotate, tracking targets with mechanical precision. Then the Defiance fired. Not energy weapons or missiles. Something else. Beams of distorted space that bent light around them. When they struck Krell raiders, the pirate ships simply stopped. Their engines went dark. Their weapons failed. They drifted helplessly, still intact, but completely disabled in less than 2 minutes. The Defiance neutralized all 12 Krell raiders without destroying a single vessel. The pirates were alive, captured rather than killed. Their ships ready to be salvaged. The military vessels that had been holding back now moved forward, cautiously approaching both the disabled pirates and the mysterious warship that had appeared from nowhere. Elena stood on the bridge of the Defiance, her heart pounding, and understood that everything had just changed. This ship represented something the galaxy thought impossible. Human military power on a scale that challenged every species' assumptions. The AI spoke again, its voice carrying centuries of patience. "Captain Voss, there are things you need to know about this vessel. Things about why we were built. Things about what humanity faced 200 years ago. And things about what is still coming. Outside, the Outer Reach trading station began broadcasting distress calls and reports across the galaxy. Every government, every news service, every military commander would soon know. Humanity had a warship, an ancient, powerful warship unlike anything in current service. And Elena Voss, cargo ship captain and accidental hero, now stood at the center of a crisis that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. Asterisk. The Council's fear, the Galactic Assembly Chamber, was built to inspire awe. Rising from the central platform in concentric rings, seats accommodated representatives from 147 member species. Some sat in traditional chairs, others floated in containment fields, and a few existed as energy patterns projected through sophisticated technology. Above everything, a dome displayed the rotating galaxy itself, a reminder that their decisions affected trillions of lives across countless worlds. Ambassador Chun Wei stood at the central podium, feeling the weight of those 147 gazes upon him. He was a career diplomat, trained in Earth's most prestigious academies, fluent in 12 alien languages. He had negotiated trade agreements and cultural exchanges. He had never expected to defend his species' right to exist as equals. The Assembly recognizes Ambassador Chun of Earth, announced Chancellor Vorik. The G. Talvirian's voice resonated through translation devices, reaching every ear and sensory organ in the chamber. You may present your defense. Chun activated the holographic display. The image of the UHS Defiance rotated slowly, showing every angle of the massive warship. Even as a projection, it looked threatening. Dark hull plating, weapons arrays, sensor clusters that could track targets across star systems. Honored members of the Assembly, I appear before you to address concerns regarding the vessel designated UHS Defiance. This ship was discovered 3 days ago by Captain Elena Voss during a pirate attack on Outer Reach trading station. Captain Voss boarded the derelict vessel and utilized its defensive systems to protect civilian lives. Her actions saved approximately 6,000 people from multiple species, including Talvirians, Zephans, and Karathi. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Chun had led with the facts that were hardest to argue against. The Defiance had saved lives, not taken them. Representative Calyx of the Zephan delegation rose, her crystalline form refracting light into rainbow patterns. Ambassador Chun, we do not dispute that Captain Voss acted heroically. What we question is the existence of this vessel itself. Your species has been a member of this assembly for only 80 standard years. In that time, you have claimed to follow the Treaty of Armament Limitation. Yet here is a warship that exceeds anything permitted under that treaty. How do you explain this contradiction? Chun had anticipated this question. The Defiance was constructed approximately 200 Earth years ago. This predates humanity's membership in the Assembly by over a century. At that time, we were not bound by your treaties because we did not know your treaties existed. Ignorance does not excuse violation, Calyx countered. The treaty exists to prevent any single species from achieving military dominance. Your ship possesses gravitational displacement weapons, quantum shielding, and an adaptive artificial intelligence. Any one of these technologies is restricted. Together, they represent a vessel capable of engaging entire fleets. Perhaps we should discuss why that vessel was built, Chun said carefully. He changed the holographic display, showing historical records. Images of early human colonies, small settlements on distant worlds, then images of those same colonies burning. Wreckage scattered across barren landscapes. Bodies. The chamber fell silent. Asterisk. This is the Epsilon Eridani colony. Population 3,000. Destroyed 206 years ago by Krell Syndicate raiders. This is New Harmony Settlement. Population 5,000. Destroyed 203 years ago. This is Port Discovery. Population 12,000. Destroyed 200 years ago. In total, humanity lost 47,000 people to pirate attacks during our first decade of space expansion. Chun's voice remained steady, but emotion bled through. We came to this assembly's predecessor organization. We begged for protection. We were told that military intervention would require us to become member species. We were told that membership required technological parity with existing members. We were told that achieving such parity would take decades. We were told to be patient while our people died. Representative Thorax of the Karathi military delegation shifted his massive bulk. This is regrettable historical context, but it does not address the current situation. Your species built a weapon in secret, rather than following proper channels. We built a defense, Chun corrected. And it was not secret. It was simply ignored. The Defiance project was announced publicly. Construction took place in the asteroid belt of our home system. Any species with basic sensors could have detected the activity. But no one was watching. No one cared what humanity built because we were considered primitive and insignificant. He let that accusation hang in the air. Several representatives looked uncomfortable. Chancellor Vorik raised a hand for order. Ambassador Chun, this assembly must consider not only the past, but the future. If we permit your species to maintain this vessel, we create precedent. Other species will argue they also deserve exceptions to the Armament Limitation Treaty. The balance that has maintained galactic peace for 3 centuries will collapse. Chun nodded slowly. I understand your concern, but I would argue that your peace was built on a foundation of inequality. The Treaty of Armament Limitation was written by species who were already militarily powerful. You limited yourselves to levels that still ensured your security, while preventing younger species from achieving the same security. You created a system where established powers remain established and newcomers remain vulnerable. That is a provocative interpretation, Calyx said coldly. Asterisk. I suggest the Assembly has priorities other than protecting its weaker members. The defiance exists because humanity learned we could only rely on ourselves. The chamber erupted in shouting. Representatives from a dozen species demanded Chun be censured for his accusations. Others defended the Assembly's historical record. Chancellor Vorik struggled to restore order. When quiet finally returned, Vorik spoke with icy formality. Ambassador Chun, this assembly will recess while we review historical records and technical specifications of your vessel. You will be summoned when we are ready to deliver our judgment. Chun bowed respectfully and withdrew. As he left the chamber, he found Captain Elena Voss waiting in the corridor. She wore a borrowed uniform that did not quite fit, having arrived directly from the Outer Reach station with no time to prepare. Her eyes held the exhausted determination of someone who had not slept in days. How bad is it? Elena asked. They're afraid, Chun replied. And frightened beings make unpredictable decisions. They walked together through the corridors of the Assembly headquarters, a massive space station that served as neutral ground for all species. Elena had been summoned to testify, to explain what she had found aboard the Defiance. The AI showed me something, Elena said quietly. Logs from the original construction. Do you know why they really built that ship? Chun shook his head. The Krell attacks were not random piracy. They were coordinated. Someone was paying the Krell to target human colonies specifically. Someone wanted to prevent humanity from expanding into space. Chun stopped walking. Do you have proof? Communication intercepts. Financial records. The AI preserved everything. But here is what matters most. The species that hired the Krell was already a member of the Assembly, already protected by your precious treaties. They saw humanity as competition for resources and decided to eliminate us quietly. Which species? Elena hesitated. I don't know if I should tell you. If this becomes public, it could shatter the assembly completely. It may shatter anyway, Sean said grimly. The assembly will almost certainly rule against us. They will demand the Defiance be decommissioned or destroyed. When that happens, Earth's government will have to decide whether to comply. And if we refuse, then we become outlaws. Expelled from the assembly. Cut off from galactic trade and diplomacy. Possibly facing military action. They reached the waiting area where Elena would stay until called to testify. She turned to face Chun directly. Ambassador, I have spent 3 days with the Defiance's AI. I have seen what that ship can do. I have read the logs of its test flights and combat simulations. If the assembly tries to take it by force, people will die. A lot of people. I know. Then you need to find another way. Because I refuse to let that ship be used for mass killing, even in self-defense. The captain who built it 200 years ago, Captain Sarah Reeves, she left a final log entry. She said the Defiance was meant to protect humanity until we were strong enough to protect ourselves. She said if it ever became a weapon of aggression, it should be destroyed. Chun studied Elena's face. You would destroy the ship rather than fight? I would do whatever prevents the most death. Right now, I honestly do not know what that is. 2 days later, Elena stood before the assembly. The chamber felt different now, charged with tension. She could see human observation galleries, packed with people from Earth, watching to see how their fate would be decided by aliens. Chancellor Vorik addressed her formally. Captain Voss, you are the first human to board the Defiance in over 2 centuries. Please describe what you found. Elena took a breath and began. She described the ship's systems, its eye, its capabilities. She explained how the gravitational displacement weapons worked, how they disabled rather than destroyed enemy vessels. She detailed the quantum shielding that made the ship nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. Then she described something else. The Defiance's AI showed me its core programming. The first directive, written by Captain Sarah Reeves and her crew, states, this vessel exists to protect human life. It may defend, but never aggress. It may disable, but never murder. It represents humanity's hope, not humanity's hate. Representative Calyx leaned forward. Noble words, Captain Voss, but intentions matter less than capabilities. Your ship could theoretically destroy every vessel in this chamber simultaneously. How do we trust that such power will only be used defensively? You don't, Elena said simply. You cannot trust it. Just as we cannot trust that the assembly will protect us when we face threats. Trust must be built, not demanded. The questioning continued for hours. Technical experts challenged her descriptions. Military representatives calculated threat scenarios. Political delegates argued about precedent and law. Through it all, Elena answered honestly, neither exaggerating nor minimizing the Defiance's power. Finally, the assembly voted. The results appeared on displays throughout the chamber. 112 votes to order the Defiance's immediate decommissioning. 28 votes against. 7 abstentions. Chancellor Vorik delivered the judgment. Captain Elena Voss, the Galactic Assembly has determined that the UHS Defiance violates the Treaty of Armament Limitation. The vessel must be rendered non-operational within 30 standard days. Its weapon systems will be removed. Its eye will be deactivated. Its hull will be converted to civilian purposes under Assembly supervision. Failure to comply will result in Earth's expulsion from this assembly and potential military intervention. Elena felt the words like physical blows. 30 days to destroy humanity's only real defense. 30 days to surrender the technology that had saved thousands of lives. Ambassador Chun stood in the observation gallery, his face unreadable. But Elena could see his hands gripping the railing, knuckles white with tension. As the assembly adjourned, Elena was escorted to a private chamber where she could communicate with Earth's government. The secure channel connected, and Fleet Admiral Thomas Kane appeared on screen. He was an older man, scarred from decades of service, with eyes that had seen too much death. "Captain Voss, I have been authorized by the World Council to give you direct orders regarding the Defiance. Are you ready to receive them?" Elena straightened. "Yes, Admiral. You are to recruit a crew. You are to prepare the Defiance for immediate departure. And you are to leave assembly space before the 30-day deadline expires." "Admiral, that means Earth will be expelled from the assembly. We will lose everything we have built over 80 years. The World Council has decided that some prices are too high. We will not surrender the only weapon that has proven capable of protecting our people. If that makes us outlaws, then we will be outlaws who survive." Elena felt something settle in her chest. Resolution. "Understood, Admiral. But I need to know something. The AI showed me evidence that someone paid the Krell to attack human colonies 200 years ago. Someone in the assembly wanted humanity eliminated. Do you know who?" Kane's expression darkened. "We have suspicions, but no proof we can use politically. What matters now is preparing for what comes next. The assembly will not simply let you leave, Captain. They will try to stop you. Then I will need a good crew. You will have volunteers. More than you can use. Every human in the fleet wants to serve on that ship. Pick your people carefully. And Captain, one more thing. The Defiance's AI revealed something else to our technical teams. Hidden within its memory core are coordinates. Locations in deep space marked as critical threats. Captain Reeves was investigating something before the ship was abandoned. Something that scared her enough to hide the Defiance rather than destroy it." Elena's stomach tightened. "What kind of threats?" "We don't know. But the AI will not reveal the information until you leave assembly space. It seems Captain Reeves did not trust that information in anyone's hands but humanity's. Find out what she was hunting. Captain Voss, find out what threat was so terrible that it required building the Defiance." The transmission ended. Elena sat in silence, processing everything. In 30 days, she would become an outlaw. She would take humanity's most powerful weapon and flee into unexplored space. She would hunt for answers to questions 200 years old. And somewhere out there, the Krell Syndicate and whoever had hired them would be waiting, along with whatever else Captain Sarah Reeves had discovered in the darkness between stars. Elena stood and walked to the window overlooking the assembly headquarters. Ships of 100 species moved in careful patterns, following rules and regulations designed to maintain order. She wondered how many of them knew that order was an illusion. How many understood that survival required more than following rules. In her pocket, a data chip contained the full logs from the Defiance. Evidence of conspiracy, of betrayal, of threats yet unknown. When the time was right, she would release that evidence. She would show the galaxy what the assembly had been hiding. But first, she needed a crew. She needed to get the Defiance operational. And she needed to disappear before the assembly decided that 30 days was too generous and moved to seize the ship immediately. Elena Voss, cargo ship captain turned warship commander, smiled grimly at her reflection in the window. She had saved 6,000 lives at Outer Reach Station. Now she would see how many more she could save before this was over. The galaxy thought it had seen what humanity could do. It had seen nothing yet. Asterisk.